attention of students and investigators of the secret doctrines, this little work based upon the world-old Hermetic teachings. There has been so little written upon this subject, notwithstanding the countless references to the teachings in the many works upon occultism, that the many earnest searchers after the arcane truths will doubtless welcome the appearance of this present volume. The purpose of this work is not the enunciation of any special philosophy or doctrine, but rather is given to the students a statement of the truth that will serve to reconcile the many bits of occult knowledge that they may have acquired, but which are apparently opposed to each other, and which often serve to discourage and disgust the beginner in the study. Our intent is not to erect a new temple of knowledge, but rather to place in the hands of the student a master key with which he may open the many inner doors in the temple of mystery through the main portals he has already entered. There is no portion of the occult teachings possessed by the world which have been so closely guarded as the fragments of the Hermetic teachings which have come down to us over the tens of centuries, which have elapsed since the lifetime of its great founders, Hermes Trismegistus, the scribe of the gods, who dealt in old Egypt in the days when the present race of men was in its infancy. Contemporary with Abraham, and, if the legends be true, an instructor of that venerable sage, Hermes was and is the great central sun of occultism, whose rays have served to illumine the countless teachings which have been promulgated since his time. All the fundamental and basic teachings embedded in the esoteric teachings of every race may be traced back to Hermes. Even the most ancient teachings of India undoubtedly have their roots in the original Hermetic teachings. From the land of the Ganges, many advanced occultists wandered to the land of Egypt and sat at the feet of the Master. From him, they obtained the Master Key, which explained and reconciled their divergent views.
Thou hast understood, O son, the manner of regeneration. For upon the coming of these 10, the intellectual generation is perfected, and then it driveth away the 12. And we have seen it in the generation itself. Whosoever therefore hath mercy obtained this generation, which is according to God. He, leaving all bodily sense, knoweth himself to consist of divine things, and rejoiceth, being made by God stable and immutable. O Father, I conceive and understand, not by the sight of mine eyes, but by the intellectual operation, which is by the powers. I am in heaven, in the earth, in the water, in the air. I am in living creatures, in the plants, in the womb, everywhere. Yet tell me further this one thing. How are the torments of darkness, being in number 12, driven away and expelled by the 10 powers? What is the manner of it, Trismegistus? This tabernacle, O son, consists of the zodiacal circle, and this consisting of 12 numbers, the idea of one. But all formed nature admit of divers conjugations to the deceiving of man. And though they be different in themselves, yet are they united in practice, as for example, rashness is inseparable from anger, and they are also indeterminate. Therefore with good reason do they make their departure, being driven away by the 10 powers, that is to say, by the dead. For the number of 10, O son, is the begetter of souls, and their life and light are united, where the number of unity is born of the Spirit. Therefore, according to reason, unity hath the number of 10, and the number of 10 hath unity. O Father, I now see the universe and myself in the mind. This is regeneration, O Son, that we should not any longer fix our imagination upon this body, subject to 3 dimensions, according to this speech, which we have now commented, that we may not at all calumniate the universe. Tell me, O Father, this body that consists of powers, shall it ever admit of any dissolution? Good words, son, and speak not things impossible, for so thou shalt sin, and the eye of thy mind grow wicked. The sensible body of nature is far from the essential generation, for that is subject to dissolution. But this not, and that is immortal, but this immortal. Dost thou not know that thou art born a god and the son of the One, as I am? How fain would I, O Father, hear that praise given by a hymn, which thou saidst thou heardst from the powers when I was in the octonary. As Pymander said by way of oracle to the octonary, thou dost well, O son, to desire the solution of the tabernacle, for thou art purified. Pymander, the mind of absolute power and authority, hath delivered no more unto me than those that are written, knowing that of myself I can understand all things, and hear and see what I will.
The Hermetic language, nous, the higher mind, and in the Gnostic language, logos, the informing spirit, and the nothing is predetermined in the Hermetic system, because through magic we can overcome the energies of cosmic fate. This is the great good news of Hermeticism, that we are not subject to fate. We should probably talk a little about this logos concept. This is something which seems very alien to modern people unless they are psychedelically sophisticated. The logos was the sine qua non of Hellenistic religion, and what it was an informing voice that spoke in your head or your heart, wherever you want to put it, and it told you the right way to live. You get this idea even in the later Old Testament, where it's said that the truth of the heart can be known, that it is no great dilemma to know good from evil. You simply inquire of your heart, is it good or evil? And you will discover a voice which will tell you. And all the great thinkers of this Greco-Hellenistic period sought and cultivated the logos. Plato had his demon. Everyone sought the informing voice of the nous, that's what it's called in Neoplatonism, and then in Hermeticism, in Hermeticism, and then in Gnosticism, the logos. Now, for modern people, for me, the only way I've ever had this experience is in the presence of psychedelic substances. And then it is just crystal clear. There is no ambiguity about it. Somehow it's possible for an informing voice to come into cognition that knows more than you do. It is a connection with the collective unconscious, I suppose, that is convivial, conversational, and just talks to you about the nature of being in the world and the nature of your being in the world. It's puzzling to us because it seems so remote. For us, a voice in the head or the heart is pathology. People like Lactantius and Eusebius, these patristic fathers, the people who built Christianity, who took the Gospels and turned it into a world religion, they took this annunciation from the sky of the death of Pan as the annunciation of the change of the aeon. In other words, by the aeon, I mean these roughly 2,000 year periods that are associated with the equinoctial precession. Do you all understand how this works? That over 26,000 years, the heliacal rising of the solstitial sun slips slowly from one house to another. And around AD 100, I mean, there's argument because these things are never precise, but around AD 100, the age of Pisces began, and the previous aeon ceased, and the cosmic machinery, the great gears of the largest scale of the cosmic machinery clicked past a certain point and into the age of Pisces. And this was then taken as very fortuitous for Christianity, because Christ was associated with the sign of the fish and was seen as a Piscean movement. But I believe that it's entirely possible that the Logos at that moment, that rough moment in time, fell silent, and that it has been silent for 2,000 years. And what we have had then is the exegesis of text and, noetic archaeology of the sort we're carrying on here. But that now, and a phenomenon as trivial and high-ponted as channeling can be seen as the reawakening of the Logos. The long night of Piscean silence is ending, and the spirit of Nous is again moving in the world, speaking in the minds of the adepts and the hierophants who have the techniques and the will to connect with this. The Hermetic corpus was largely Alexandrine. And there were also Christian Platonists in Alexandria. You see, Christianity had not yet gelled. It was many things. So you not only have Gnostics of 5 or 6 schools, Simonists, Valentinians, Basilidians, and so forth, but you also have Christians, a number of cults calling themselves Christians, that were also in furious competition. Docetists, Montanists, and later Nestorians. There were gymnosophists from India, people who were actually carrying yogic doctrines into the Mediterranean world. Plus you then have all the surviving cults of the older Egyptian strata, the cults of Isis and Cybele and Adonis and Dionysius, and it just goes on and on. I mean, the richness of this intellectual world is there's nothing comparable in our experience. And it shows the passion with which people were trying to understand the dilemma of a dying world, because this is what they were confronted with. The intellectuals of the empire could feel it all slipping through their hand. And we have to remember, don't have any illusions about the Roman Empire. I mean, I always think of the wonderful description, I don't even know why it's there, but Boris Pasternak in Dr. Zhivago goes off on a rip about ancient Rome, and he describes it as a bargain basement on 3 floors. I mean, this was an empire that lived by human cruelty. It was on the backs of slaves that this airy intellectual speculation was based. I mean, it was a tremendously pluralistic society, but that pluralism was maintained by standing armies of enormous size and policies of occupation of enormous cruelty. I mean, because of our relationship to the Christian tradition, we're aware of such things as the Zealot Revolt of 69 and the reign of Herod Antiochus in Jerusalem and so forth and so on. But that was just one little corner of the empire. And in Armenia, in Gaul, in Spain, in North Africa, military governors were carrying out outrageous suppressions of native populations. I mean, it was not a pretty time to be alive, without doubt. And our own age is very similar. We suffer under propaganda, mass manipulation of ideas, and the degradation and exploitation of the third world on a scale the Roman Empire couldn't even dream of. So there is a great affinity. I always like to quote the British enzymologist J.B.S. Haldane, who made a wonderful statement. He said, the universe is not only stranger than we suppose, it is stranger than we can suppose. And that's a dizzying perception. It's one thing to think it's very strange. It's quite another thing to realize that it is stranger than you can suppose. You may suppose and suppose and suppose, and you will fall so far short of the mark that it's absurd. That's what it means to be in the presence of a mystery, you see. The modern word mystery translates out to unsolved problem. That's not what a mystery is. A mystery is not an unsolved problem. A mystery is a mystery. And ratiocination can exhaust itself and make no progress with it. And that's what's at the core of our being. And that was what was at the core of this ancient perception. I mean, these were thoroughly modern people. They were shoved up against the same things that tug at our hearts and our minds and our souls. And beyond that, there's not a whole hell of a lot that you can say about it. But you see, most of us traced our civilization to desert dwellers who invented agriculture, which gave us surpluses. So then we had to build walled enclosures to defend our surpluses from starving neighbors. And we're talking 6000 BC at Jericho for this kind of stuff. And so we have been cut off from the natural mind longer than any other group of people on earth. This is how we are able to carry out the demonic, in the negative sense, the demonic reconstruction of the world that we have. I mean, what we have done is, if there is a sin, then we have sinned, Robert Oppenheimer said, beyond all rational argument, the physicists have known sin. And it's because they reached into the heart of matter without reverence. And their best trick was to call down the light that burns at the center of stars. And they call it down to the test centers of our deserts and on to the heads of our enemies, if necessary. But this is a cosmic sin. It's an abomination. Hobbes' Leviathan. Thomas Hobbes, was the great theoretician of modern government and social organization, and he was basically a paranoid SOB. And he says, in the Leviathan, he says, man to man is like unto an errant beast, and man to man is like unto a god. And it's absolutely true, Our noblest aspirations and our most hideously dehumanizing activities take place in the context of our relationship to other people. This is what the alchemists were trying to do, you see. They were trying to separate the gold from the dross. They were trying to take the errant beast, and when we look at alchemical art, we will see dragons, dogs, pigs, we will see the errant beasts, and we will see the angelic beings that are trying to be separated out of our nature. This is within each and every one of us. Man to man is like unto a god, and man to man is like unto an errant beast. The reference here is to Neoplatonism, which is a kind of parallel tradition to what we're talking about. Plato had at least a couple of phases in the evolution of his thinking. The young Plato is a rational thinker, but the later Plato, apparently after he fell under the influence of Pythagorean schools, it becomes a full-blown mystic. And then in the late Roman Empire, now this is almost 1,000 years after Plato. We have to remember, in our minds, all these people get squeezed together like they could all have dinner together. But, Plotinus is as far from Plato as we are from King Canute. So you have to bear in mind the scale of history. And many of those ideas and terms parallel conceptually the stuff in the Corpus Hermeticum. And if you're of a certain intellectual bent, you may find yourself more comfortable with the Neoplatonists than with this. This material tends to be emotional, evocative, poetic, and while there's great poetry in Plotinus, there's also very tight thinking that goes along with it. And there are other traditions. I mean, I'm making it simple for you. There was a whole tradition of what was called the Chaldean oracles. And this was a collection of 100 or more fragments, all of which were the great commentary of Eusebius in 30 volumes. Iamblichus, one of them. That's all lost. We don't have that material, and it is, in a way, the most mysterious of these traditions because it just didn't survive. And it may be that the Chaldean oracles, is the missing link to push this stuff back several centuries deeper into time, because the Chaldean oracles may actually be pre-Platonic. There's considerable evidence of that. But these are very arcane matters. I mean, you have to give yourself over to a lifetime of learning these languages and the philology of these languages to penetrate this stuff. I believe that alchemy provides the best metaphors for understanding this. Nature is the great alchemist par excellence, and we, as its minions, through history, are accelerating the condensation of being toward the unimaginable. So that in my system, my way of thinking, there's ultimately a symmetry break with ordinary history, and I call it all kinds of different things, but here this morning, the transcendent other. The transcendent other casts an enormous shadow across the lower dimensional landscape of time. The stirring of the earliest life forms in the Devonian seas caught the call, and every step that has been taken since then has been toward the transcendental other. It beckons us, and history is haunted by this thing. History is the shockwave of eschatology. History is a process that lasts, let's be generous, 25,000 years. I'm at the blink of an eye in geological time. And in that 25,000 years, religious systems rise and fall, governmental systems, teachers come and go, and there is a sense of being caught in a whirlpool that is spinning us toward fusion with the unimaginable. And this is why the skies of Earth are haunted by flying saucers. They aren't coming from other solar systems. They are scintillas. Remember this alchemical term, sparks. They are scintillas being thrown off from the alchemical quintessence which lies like a great attractor at the end of time. And the purpose of science and technique and electronic media and information transfer and all of this stuff is to knit us together, to dissolve our boundaries and to bring us to a point of singularity where language fails, where we lean over meaning's edge and feel the dizziness of things unsaid. And this lies now, I believe, within our lifetimes, within the lifetime of most of us. This is actually going to break through. Our religions, Islam, Judaism, Christianity, the major Western religions persistently insist that we are caught in a tightening spiral of ever-increasing speed that is carrying us toward an unimaginable confrontation with something which they call God, the Second Coming, the Messiah, you name it. As cool-headed a rationalist as Arnold Toynbee, when he sat down to write a study of history, he finally had to face the question, what is history for? And the best he could come up with is, history must be about the entry of God into the domain of three-dimensional space. Well, we don't know what God is. Let's not call it God. Let's call it the Philosopher's Stone.